Welcome to Reclaiming Home, a podcast focused on delivering thoughtful conversation and tangible actions to make housing justice a reality in our communities. I'm your host, Asale Sol Young, Executive Director of Urban Homeworks, an educator, activist, and proud Turtle Papa. I'm a Black Legacy native of Evanston, Illinois, and a proud descendant of Haitians and rural Black and Indigenous North Carolinians. Join me as we take time each month to dive into all things housing, including potential policies, community dreams, persistent systemic barriers. We'll also celebrate success and everything in between. We are so glad you're here. Here at Urban Homeworks, we acknowledge that we live our lives and do our work on land that European colonizers stole from the Dakota people indigenous to Minnesota. In order for this theft to occur, sadistic acts of genocide, rape, and forced assimilation were employed. We also acknowledge that we live our lives and do our work on land that was cultivated and developed by bodies that European colonizers stole from West African countries through the transatlantic slave trade. In order for these thefts to occur, sadistic acts of genocide, rape, forced assimilation were employed. As we acknowledge what was taken from our collective human ancestors, we commit to work and fight for the liberation of the descendants of those enslaved through American chattel slavery and the sovereignty of all Native peoples. All right. Welcome to Reclaiming Home, Housing Justice with Urban Homeworks. Today, I am so excited to be joined by Timi, Bliss, and Annette, Bryant. And I'd love for you all to actually get us started today and tell folks who you are. Timi.
I am a Minneapolis native, children's book author, illustrator, and publisher of books that feature Black children in everyday life. I also am the grassroots gift officer at the Headwaters Foundation for Justice. And we are a community foundation that funds social justice movements. And I dibble and dab in lots of forms of art.
Awesome.
Yeah, but primarily my art outlet is children's books. Yeah, children's picture books.
Great. And we love Headwaters. So shout out to Headwaters. Annette.
Yes. Hi, I'm Annette Bryant, and I'm a multifaceted artist. I have been with Zomnia Theater. So with Zomnia, we connect with the homeless community and we create and perform performances about homelessness and social injustice. And I also do graphic design. Like, I love graphic design, poetry. I too am an author of 2 books. But these are probably more for like, they could be school ages. And then one is for empty nesters. I don't know, I'm a lover of life, so I feel like life itself is an art.
Okay.
So yeah, so I'm looking forward to what's to be today.
Yes, me too. Love that. Beautiful introductions, y'all. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, my name is Asale Sol Young. I am the executive director here at Urban Homeworks. I use they, them pronouns. If you're new to our work, we are a 29-year-old organization, y'all. If you have been with us on this journey, let's celebrate 29 years. That's amazing. The mission of Urban Homeworks is to lead the fight for housing justice so that all people have a safe, stable, and dignified place to live. Our vision is simple and clear: housing justice for all. And as I've already said, I'm really excited about our conversation today. So I'd love to hear more from both of you about your various mediums. You both mentioned being multifaceted. Annette, I'm going to start with you for this one. But can you just talk about how you got into art in the beginning, and when was that time in your life?
So ever since I was a little girl, like I loved art. Art was really my favorite subject besides English. Yet, my life probably took a different trajectory. Cause I had my first child at 17, and I always wanted to be an interior designer. But sometimes, like when you have children, you're not quite sure how some of these, how it work out. So then I went into a regular, I guess kind of like a regular everyday field.
Okay.
And
What was that?
so I would say at first I was working in fast food.
Okay.
So it's like that journey.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got married when I was 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
Young.
Yes, I got married when I was 19. And then it's like I seem to be having children quite often. And so I started in daycare on Head Start. So PICA in Minneapolis, they allotted us an opportunity to be able to become teachers in the classroom. So I did their training. And then eventually I went into child development. So I have an associate's in child development.
Nice.
Oh yeah, so it's just like, oh, and you want to know how? I got
Yeah,
to-
so from there,
to
how'd
the
you get in?
place where I am
Yes,
now.
how'd you get to art?
So how I got to the theater world was my one friend, her name is Stacy, and she was like, let me show you a day in my life.
Oh.
So we walked first, and then we went to the library, and that's where I connected with Zomnia
Okay.
Theater Project, and they was getting ready to go on break. Yet after the break, I came back, and I've been with them. It will be 6 years in July.
Wow, congrats.
Well, thank you.
That's really cool. I'm curious about this idea of shadowing a day in the life of your friend. What triggered that?
Oh, so what triggered that is because I have been dealing with an injury, so I haven't been able to go back full time to any job. And I just wanted to get out. I was tired of being in the house. So I was like, I need to find something else to do. And how Stacy and I connected, that's even another story. I left my sweater in her house, and it took, what, I think about like a couple of years to get the sweater back.
Oh, wow.
And I have no idea what a sweater is now. But yeah, her and I are still connected.
That's the best. Awesome. And it sounds like amazing timing.
Yeah.
The shadowing happening, you're going through a hard time in life, and you meet, say the Samaya?
Oh, Stacy.
Oh, I mean, I'm sorry, the name of the theater. How do you pronounce it?
Zamnia.
Zamnia, okay.
And that word
I was
is a
not pronouncing it
Sanskrit word for aiming at peace.
Aiming at peace. Ooh, love that. And you met Zamnia on this day, almost like, you know, it was meant to be a part of your healing journey. That's
That
really
is
powerful.
what it has been.
That's really powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Timi, I'm gonna ask you a similar question. Tell us about your journey. How did you become a children's book author, illustrator? I feel like you named a third one. Publisher.
Yeah.
You're like an in-house, you're doing the whole thing.
Sure.
Talk about it. How'd you get there?
Well, I was born creative, straight out the womb, doing all the creative things.
Yes.
Like Annette said, I really loved art class. I have dabbled and dabbed in a lot of different mediums, just trying to express myself in some way, to create, to share creations. Wanted to be a fashion designer when I grew up.
Okay.
So I did an awful lot of sewing.
Okay.
And I'll take a class on just about anything, calligraphy, pottery,
Okay.
basket weaving, looming, whatever it is that I can explore and just try to find my niche.
Okay.
I landed on children's books, primarily because I love to write.
Okay.
I've been in nonprofit development fundraising for the lion's share of my career,
Okay.
20, 30 years. And a lot of that work involves grant writing,
Mhm.
and I love grant writing.
Mm.
And so there was a bedtime story that I would tell my daughter at the time. She was around 4 or 5 years old.
Wow.
She's 34 now.
Mm.
And I had decided to publish this as a bedtime story book,
Mhm.
self-publish it myself. And to make a longer story short, I really thought it was going to be just a creative release for me to just put the story down, buy a few hundred copies, share it with my family and friends and be done. But the universe had other plans. People loved it.
Mhm.
They wanted me to write a second book. So I did. And then that led to a local publisher reaching out to me to write a third book that they published.
Wow.
That book was done in partnership with Crayola, and it's a book about diversity and inclusion.
Love it.
So that is how my journey started. And I've got 2 other manuscripts in the hopper that I'm working on. And
Wow.
yeah, so I think that that medium of just, creating the artwork for my books, because I do digital illustrations, I call it digital collage,
Okay.
and writing the stories
Mhm.
is a great marriage between creative outlets that I really love. So it's good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I definitely would love for you to talk more about the decision to self-publish.
Well, the traditional publishing route isn't an easy one. The top 5 publishing companies have their processes. It's very difficult to get a book published. Oftentimes you hear authors talk about, I've submitted a manuscript 87 times and I've got all these rejections. And I remember feeling like, rejection hurts. I'm not about self-inflicted pain. And,
Okay.
honing my craft. I mean, I'm taking courses at the Loft on, learning all about the writing process, what goes into a children's book. So I didn't go into it just trying to, feel my way through my manuscript. I reached out to editors to edit my first story. And that's kind of how it happened. So I wanted it to be birthed into the world. I didn't need the approval and authority of anybody to share my story.
All right.
So the world let me know that I have a voice and a story and more stories that people want to hear, that children are enjoying. And that's how I made that decision. Yeah. There it is.
That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I'm curious, when you told your daughter that you were going to share that story with other children, how she responded. Was she feeling like, oh, this is exciting, mom sharing ideas?
The first thing that she said was, she doesn't want her name in the book.
Okay, how did you feel about that?
Oh, I was fine with that.
Okay.
I'm absolutely fine with that. So I should say that the real motivation to take this 20-something-year-old story and publish it into a book was because I became a grandma. And that was such a joy. My granddaughter's name is Charlie, and she's 8 now. And so I changed the character's name in the book to Charlie instead of my daughter. And she just doesn't like to share her name because she loves it so much and people love it. And when they hear it, my daughter's afraid that people will start naming their children what she's named, and she doesn't want it to turn into the next Ashley or Brittany, this common name. So
Interesting. I'm so curious what her sign is.
what her sign is?
Yeah.
She's a Libra.
Oh, territorial Libra. That's new.
Yeah, so Charlie is the star of all my books.
Oh, wonderful.
And kids are smart. When I go on school visits and I'm sharing my background and getting into the story, they all go, wait a minute. You're the mom in the book, but the daughter is Charlie, but Charlie's really your granddaughter. So how does that work? And I'm like, look, this is one big old family love fest. We're just, you can do whatever you want to do when you write a book.
That's right. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your backgrounds with us. moving into kind of the focus of our conversation today, which is art and activism. You know, people look at art in different ways. For some folks, it's entertainment, right? It's just kind of like personal outlet, self-joy, self-love, right? And then obviously there's a really amazing history of art activism that we've seen really impact different social justice movements in time. I think a lot about the work of Augusto Boal, Theater of the Oppressed, and the power of even revolutionary theater during the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa, right? So as you all think about your work and activism, let's talk about what art and activism means to you, because it has a different meaning for everybody. So Timi, I'm gonna let you take this one first.
I think off the top, for me, art activism means shining a light on a social justice issue, bringing awareness to it, sharing it with a broad, wide audience, and getting people to better understand, you know, maybe a different perspective that they may not have even considered. And additionally, you know, bringing a collective of people together to strengthen a movement. Those are kind of the first things I think about when I think about art activism. It's bringing people together, shifting mindsets, hopefully, and bringing issues to the forefront that will hopefully, you know, influence some of these oppressive systems of injustice. So yeah.
So it's like a galvanizing.
Absolutely
tool.
galvanizing.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Annette, what are your thoughts?
So when I think about art for justice and social change, so I created a company called Butterfly Lotus Healing Sanctuary. And what I do at my company is assist individuals and families to have the breakthroughs from that shame and pain and turn it into strength, power, and spontaneous pleasure. I get kickback on that word pleasure, and I'm like,
wow, no, I love
Yeah,
that.
I feel
That's a
like-
great word.
I feel like pleasure happens through the whole body. It's different than joy, it's different than happy, but I feel like it's something like we don't want it to stop. And I do this through literacy in the art, because I feel like how many people do we know that aren't able to read what the doctor says? They can't read even with the papers for the rent.
Yep.
And so what is it to transform their trajectory? And for those that have children, if you have a baby going into kindergarten and you say, well, I can't read, so I don't want to sound like I'm foolish to my kid, y'all learning together, because
Right.
your baby is not reading either.
Right.
So I think like it's this life journey,
Yes.
and that we have all had to overcome something.
Yes.
So what is it to broaden our horizon and think about, if once you learn to read, even if you choose not to continue, your baby can read to you. And I feel like that will connect and bring families together.
Wow, that's beautiful. So from your perspective, I heard that art as activism is educational. It is connecting. It is, I also heard empowerment. I mean, from what both of you said, I heard empowerment. So we kind of talked about, you touched on a little bit like the roles of artists in these different movements. And I think I'm gonna take it in a little bit more locally. What are ways that you all have seen art and artists kind of like show up in local movements? Whether it's yourselves or artists that you're connected to, how have you seen that work manifest for a movement in our local scene? I'll let whoever wants to start kick it off.
So I would say for me, I think about Zomnia And we have done a piece called Prairie Homeless Companion. And so that has went to the Prairie, Central Minnesota, and this year we're doing it, I think, out towards the Iron Range. And so as we know, homelessness as itself looks different depending on where you are.
That's right.
Because smaller communities maybe don't see it as we do, and they do not have the shelters
Right.
and the assistance that's needed. And not only is it affecting the one individual, we also learned that some of the families are having their children taken because there's no place for them to go. So it's creating a trauma cycle. So it's like, making people aware of what's happening. And really, we need the lawmakers in the room.
That's right.
Because those are the ones who can actually transform the narrative for everyone.
So you see that the work of Zamia as is almost like it's disrupting the status quo. And again, like what you talked about earlier, it's educating folks around an issue to say like, yep, we need you to get involved in this. And it goes back to that galvanizing force that Timi talked about.
Correct, and it's an interactive theater, so when we finish performing, we ask the audience questions.
Love that. Love that. Yes. Don't just absorb, contribute. Yes.
Timi, how about you?
Oh, well, hearing your question, the first thing that comes to mind is the work of the Minnesota African American History Museum and Gallery. After the murder of George Floyd, they got 16 artists to create the Black Lives Matter street mural. I was one of the 16 artists, and being able to create art in that way, in and amongst other artists, I think just ratchets up the power of the pieces of art that you're making. Doing public art shines an even broader lens on the subject matter that you're doing because the audience is much more wide. I think about other pieces that the museum has done, like Nikki McComb has done pieces at the museum around gun violence. So, yeah, I hope that addresses your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, again, local examples of the ways that art is used to amplify.
Absolutely. And there's just way too many
educate.
exhibits and educational pieces of art that are happening inside just small galleries. You happen across a gallery, you get invited to an event, you go, you learn, you engage with other people there. The conversations are spawned and sparked. And there's just countless opportunities to engage with art on an activism level here in the Twin Cities. I just paid a visit to the Northrop King building to visit my artist friends, Drew Hammond and his wife Beverly. And they do collage art. And there is so much within those pieces that are speaking to rising above oppression. And a good way for just anybody that kind of happens across an exhibit is share it. Pictures, selfies, social media, word of mouth, talk. It starts this rolling energy and sparking interest around who is the artist, what is this subject matter that they're expressing in whatever sort of way their medium is. Where can I fit in with this? Is there something I can do to engage, help, get involved? Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of what you said earlier about just like reaching hearts and minds, right? It's like art is a conversation.
It really is.
And so a lot of times, you know, folks that are viewing art, a certain kind of art around a specific topic, they're not necessarily the most informed about the topic, but the art kind of invites them to start to engage in that topic.
Mhm.
Like exactly what you're talking
And
about.
that whole cliche of artist subjective,
Mm.
you know, people see things the way they see them in a piece.
Mhm.
Conversations can happen, thoughts can grow from
Mhm.
all different kinds of angles, even that the artist had never considered.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And in the case of work that both of you do actively, you're also reflecting people back to themselves, and often it seems like in your specific cases, reflecting folks that typically don't get to see themselves reflected in art.
The whole point of my children's book authoring career is for
Mhm.
brown kids to see themselves in the pages of the book.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
This is really fun. I'm loving this.
I'm glad you're having fun. It is fun.
Is there anything that you wish people understood or accepted about creation as a form of protest or artistry as a form of protest? That's a big one. I think we got comfortable. so
Yeah, it
okay,
is,
let's
but
go.
I think that understanding that creative expression around art as activism for the artist can be very, you can feel vulnerable.
Mhm.
You're putting your personal beliefs
That's right.
on display,
That's right.
which can lead to backlash,
Mhm.
judgments, things like that. So artists are putting themselves out there in hopes that they can bring people in,
Mhm.
but there's always that sad possibility that there's backlash. The whole Black Lives Matter mural
Mhm.
situation, you could even use that. So much
Mhm.
uproar around, what is this? Why is this? We don't need this
Mhm.
kind of thing. So, yeah.
And what was it?
But
Why did we need it?
George Floyd was murdered in front of
Mhm.
our eyes on national TV
Mhm.
by a white racist.
Mhm. So what was that protest? What was being protested in that word?
Systems, police brutality,
Mhm.
over policing,
Mhm.
mm-hmm,
Mhm.
manhandling and abusing Black bodies.
Mhm. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. A
And-
protest. Mhm.
And for me, I feel so often I hear people talking about elephants in the room. I might break down the elephant.
Break it
What is the
down.
elephant?
Yes.
And so I say, what is it to put on display? Questions to make people think.
Mm.
Because I feel like when you see visual beyond pictures,
Mhm.
words that get your mind to thinking,
Mhm.
then it can take you out of that everyday norm.
Mhm.
And so I feel like, what is it? How can we break it down? Why are there elephants in the room? Why are people afraid to speak?
Mm.
Because it's freedom. It's freeing
Mm.
on so many levels.
That's
Mhm.
right. Wow, y'all, this is good stuff. I hope the audience is paying attention. Have there been any movements that have felt just like super exciting or kind of filled you up in your work? Yeah, like, are there any things that you feel particularly proud of creating for any movements specifically?
Well, truly the only real movement that my work, not as a children's book author, but just as an artist, has
Mhm.
been the Black Lives Matter mural. And I remember it garnering much more work after that.
Mm.
I worked with Metro Transit
Mm.
and did their art in transit program. We created artwork that was displayed on the sides of buses and in bus shelters across the city,
Mhm.
and many other things. Like I remember back in, when was that? 2013, perhaps, maybe. I don't know, when the gay marriage amendment was
Mhm.
passed. And people are reaching out to me. At the time, I was working at a custom graphics t-shirt shop. And I'm making custom graphics for whatever people want to express their solidarity and joy of the fact that laws was passed that marriages are now gender neutral. Yeah, so,
Awesome.
yeah.
I bet you got to make some fun t-shirts.
Ooh, I got a closet full of all kinds of statements. If it's a thought, it's a t-shirt in my closet.
It's so real. So
It's
real.
it's really bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or good, or
They're
fun.
good, yeah.
And now what do you think?
Okay, the question again?
Yes, and it was a little convoluted. That is totally my fault. I really just wanted you to reflect on movements that you have been a part of or that your art has been a part of that you feel particularly proud of or that were just especially meaningful to you.
So more recent, I'll say I did a collaboration with a young man that is discussing about his organization is called Jive. Justice Impacted Individuals Voting Effectively.
Oh, hey, love that.
So he wrote some pieces when he was in prison, and we did a collaboration on his pieces. And now he's gonna put them into music, and then we're gonna write some more pieces. We're gonna collaborate and put out poetry and books, even though it's two different levels of what it is. Yet it's still about that inner life experience. And sometimes it makes me think about where I can be more informative to even my children. I'm a mother of 6, 5 sons and 1 daughter. And it even makes me think about the impact I have on their lives. And one of my sons called me today and he was like, "Mom, I know sometimes I might talk crazy to you."
Oh,
He was
no.
like, but he was like, "We need you.
Oh,
we need you."
yeah.
And as the connector. And I really do. I feel like our lives as mothers, as grandmas, is art. It's artwork. It's like this puzzle that sometimes feels like it's apart. But then somehow we bring it back together. Absolutely.
It's beautiful. That is beautiful, y'all. Thank you both so much for leaning into this conversation and talking about your own art and activism in the community and how art has shown up in that. As we start to wind down our chat today, one of the questions we always like to ask our guests is, what is a vision or a dream that you have for your community? And then I'm gonna kick this one to you.
Okay. In the work I do, I say, when you heal the women and girls and they assist to heal their partners and the family. Not only do we heal our local communities, we heal generations to heal nations.
Ashe. Just gonna sit with that for a second. Whew. Yes, thank you. Timi.
For me, ooh, my dream for the community is, I think, just for people of all walks of life, race, age, gender, sexuality, to just remain empathetic and open and understanding of others, as a way to kind of embrace belonging. Everybody belongs. We all belong here. We all have a purpose. We all have a right.
That's right.
So I think it's just for the community to just embrace everybody has the right to be.
Shay, y'all. Ooh, may both of those dreams manifest. So yes, as this has been an incredibly enlightening, informative conversation, y'all. I know that there are folks listening who are young folks. I know there's folks listening who are older folks and thinking about, I have gifts, but I'm not necessarily sure what to do with them or how to use them to contribute to my community. I'd love to hear any thoughts or advice that you have for those listeners.
I think it's taking the leap of faith to express yourself, share yourself in how you are yourself. And there is, trust me, there's an audience, there are ears, there are eyes, and there are hearts that will resonate with your work. You had mentioned galvanizing earlier. It'll galvanize that relationship and you will begin your journey. You'll expand your journey. Just, you have purpose. Share your purpose. I remember starting off on my children's book journey. The first book was the first book. It was a bedtime story that I told my daughter. And then when asked to write another one, it's like, oh boy, can I really do this? Does anybody care? Really? Just do it. Trust the process. It's gonna happen. It will happen.
I love that though, because we all have those doubts. And you're just like, yeah, we'll just do it anyway.
We all have self-doubt. We all sometimes suffer from imposter syndrome. And we're not imposters. I'm sitting right here.
That's right. That is
I'm
right.
sitting right here.
Let them know.
Let them know, girl.
Yes. Love it. Annette, what you got for us?
So what I feel is, I would say a word, because people don't really want advice. But I would say a word of uplifting, collaborate, share the resources, and beyond. You're never too old, you're never too young.
That's right.
This is your time, this is just right. Simply get up and show the world, share it anyway, and release the fear and share in love. Because then it'll open more spaces for you.
I love that. Release the fear and share in love. There's been a lot of mic drops during this episode. I hope you all were taking notes, a lot of snaps, a lot of ashes and amens. I think, I'm gonna add on one last question. We keep doing this to you both. I hope that's okay, but
I love it.
as you just kind of laid down some gems for potential artists or folks who are artists but aren't public about their art just yet, is there anything that, you talked about sharing resources in that, and that's what got me thinking about this question. Is there any advice that you would have for funding bodies or governments or organizations that artists might be trying to work with to get published or get recognition, right? Any advice not for the artists, but for those bodies of power that often have resources that those artists might need to really get their work off the ground and into the public?
I feel like, can we name drop?
Yes, if we can't, we'll get rid of it.
Okay. So for me, I feel like Springboard of the Arts, even though they have funding, it's like, what is it to open up even smaller pots to allow those that are simply showing up? Because I know they offer classes and sometimes there are other monies, and I feel like as a community, instead of feel like we're fighting over this pot,
Yes.
what is it to bridge create bridges to the pot.
Yeah.
So even maybe sometime, even though when we get the money, what is it to invite other artists in, if that's a possibility, to create and share collectively what has been done.
Yes, and I just have to say, Annette, I really love the theater in your body.
Oh,
Timi, what advice do you have for these bodies with all this funding?
I work for the Headwaters Foundation for Justice.
A body that has a lot of funding.
Yeah, but we come at philanthropy and funding a lot differently. You know, we are into donor organizing. You know, our donors to our organization, individual people that care about the social justice causes, are the ones funding our grants. So we are building this ecosystem of community. And I think having bodies of power, influence, money, resources, I think having these institutions bringing more community and diverse voices to the table in their decision making and in their work is only going to be of a greater benefit to our community as a whole, to our society, our populations. Yeah, so I'm all about bring the diverse voices to the table.
That's right. Awesome. All right, y'all, you've heard it here. Bring diverse voices and spread the pot. I heard a lot about collaboration. Make the grants smaller so that more people have access to them. Love that. All right, well, this is the close of our conversation. We've been so excited to talk about this topic, specifically art and social justice, art and activism. We plan on revisiting this conversation later in the year. Because to your point, Timi, there's a lot of art and a lot of activism happening in the Twin Cities, and we want to uplift and celebrate that tireless work where folks are presenting their vulnerabilities and their truths for us to respond to. And they're doing that with courage and trust. So looking forward to having more of these conversations. For those of you who are interested in tracking our work here at Urban Homeworks, we are on social media across all of the platforms at Urban Homeworks. You can find us Twitter, Facebook, etc., all of them simply by searching at Urban Homeworks. Timi and Annette, before we close things down, is there anything that you would like our listening audience to be aware of? Any websites or social medias you would like us to share?
Sure. You can find my website at timibliss.com, TIMI bliss.com. I am on Facebook and Instagram at Timi Bliss Author, and you connect with me that way.
Awesome. And we will have that information in our show notes. Annette?
so. Okay, so I am on Facebook and Instagram. You know, I want to give a plug. We're doing some work with Wanderlust. And downtown St. Paul are gonna have options, I think like buttons. So we bring in stories to life downtown St. Paul. So I believe that will take place in June, but we've been doing the writing and everything for that. So then if you get some opportunity. And I am on Facebook at Annette C. Bryant. It does say Annette Bryant Butler, but that's the way you can connect with me. And Instagram at Annette C. Bryant.
Awesome. And we will definitely also have that in our show notes. Is there a specific website where we can track the work with Wanderlust? Or where folks can find more information about that?
So I can share.
Perfect.
Yeah, I just
Perfect.
have to share that.
Great. And we will include that in the show notes. That is it for our show today. Thank you all so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. I feel like this was a real treat. Filled me up today. So thank you all. Thank you so much for tuning in for Reclaiming Home, Housing Justice with Urban Homeworks for today's discussion. If you like this podcast and want to support Urban Homeworks housing work, head over to www.urbanhomeworks.org/donate to make a gift, attend a future event,
volunteer with us, or learn more. Until next time, remain connected and informed.
Thanks, y'all. Yes. 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 Yes.